Over the past 2 weeks, it's been a quick turnaround because it hasn't been the usual month. But I did, for the very first time, I can't believe I've missed this all these years, this Touch-It truck, which was in Jackson. It was so much fun, and to see all these little ones that are out there was just absolutely delightful. And the whole idea is a focus on literacy. So there was a little tent, if you will, and so second graders kind of rotated through, and I was able to do some read alouds with second graders for Touch-It truck. But it was and you should see all the trucks and all the stuff that they've got going on out there for these little ones. It was a very beautiful day and a great event. We also celebrated our Administrator Teacher of the Year and Administrator and Teacher of the Year awards. Mr. Bailey and Mr. Franklin, thank you for attending. I know that does not go unnoticed. I finished all my superintendent's regional meetings, and I can tell you that they were some of the most well-attended regional meetings that I've had. We went over all the proposed changes to the accountability model. We talked about our Teachers Council. We talked about the teacher pay raise, all of those kinds of things, and lots of great discussion in those meetings as well. Most recently, I did a presentation at the Council of Chief State School Officers Legislative Conference. Our presentation was on our initiative around high-quality instructional materials. Dr. Oakley, Dr. Vanderford, and Pete Smith were also there. And I can tell you that the one thing that my walk-away is every time I'm at these national meetings is that you really appreciate the cutting edge that Mississippi is on in terms of a lot of our initiatives. There's a lot of states that are asking us great questions, wanting to know how we got started, wanting to know how we're using it. And I think this high quality instructional materials initiative is one that I think is going to have a lot of potential for our teachers, because the whole idea is to get teachers trained to know how to look at a piece of material and be able to judge its quality and its alignment to our standards. You know, lots of teachers download stuff from the internet that they want to use, and this would give them the capacity to then say, is it of high quality, is it as rigorous as it needs to be, and does it align to our standards? So really proud of the work that Dr. Oakley is leading in that respect. Yesterday, I attended the MEC Board of Governors meeting. Over 70 businessmen. We met at the Westin, and it gave me an opportunity to talk about all the great things that are happening with CTE. I think that's, and with our Perkins 5 grant. They were very interested in that, very much wanting to be partners. So I gave Wendy Clemens and Tom Wallace's contact information and said, please feel free. But the message was really, we want to make sure that we're partners with them, and we want to make sure that we're meeting the needs of all of our businesses around the state, regardless of where they are and regardless of their size. I mean, you could have something as large as the Toyota, and you could have something as small as whatever that happens to be in a local area, and so we want to make sure that we're meeting our businesses' needs. And I'm also going to ask Dr. Oakley and Dr. Gavin if you would come up. We recently just had a visit from the United States Department of Ed. They had conducted a risk assessment about a year ago. Do I have that? 2 years ago. And so now this was the follow-up. They made a lot of recommendations when they were here, and I felt it was very important that you as a board hear what their findings were 2 years later. So I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Oakley and Dr. Gavin.
Good morning again. As Dr. Wright said, Ms. Jackson was here from the U.S. Department of Education out of the Office of Risk Management and Grants Management there. While she was here back in 2017, she met with the staff and she provided several assessments and several recommendations around risk assessment. The main purpose of her visit this month was to follow up on those recommendations that she had made and to see where we were in terms of evaluating our corrective action plan and to assess our internal control environment. On the first day of her visit, it was a 2-day visit, she conducted opening meetings with the entire staff in the Office of Federal Programs and all of the operational departments. She really wanted to gain a sense of the progress that the agency had made in the areas of compliance, internal controls, our RIM procedures, our procurement practices, our asset management, how we were tracking our grants electronically and federal risk assessment tool, and to basically overall see how the staff had done in terms of training in those areas. So we were able to provide her with lots of documentation on our progress. Ms. Jackson, she was extremely complimentary of the work that was being done here and the progress that the agency has made in all of those areas that she addressed a couple of years ago. She actually stated that we had not only met her expectations, but we actually had highly exceeded her expectations. Not only were we able to articulate that we had implemented those changes and recommendations, but we were actually able to show her evidence of the changes that the agency had made. And she emphasized the fact that we had created a culture of compliance at the agency, and she recognized the fact that we had hired a compliance director, and she thought that that was a big step in making sure that the agency stayed compliant in all the areas that she was concerned about. She acknowledged the fact that Dr. Wright and the entire leadership team was leading the charge and making sure that this work was being done. So she was very, very, very complimentary of the agency. She also met and spoke with Dr. Wright and the entire leadership team. So overall, she said we had made significant progress in the areas of compliance and internal controls. And she actually said that the model that we've created at the agency, that we could actually take that on the road and show other states how we've done it. So she was very complimentary.
Lots of work from staff across program offices, but I would like to extend appreciation particularly to Quentin Ransberg and Alicia Campbell from Federal Programs and Operations that really spearheaded the planning for this return visit.
I want to ditto that and to really thank Dr. Gavin for her leadership in this area. It's been night and day since they came, and I think they recognize that. And Quentin and Alicia totally agree with Dr. Oakley. You have been right side by side with Dr. Gavin in this effort, and it has not been an easy one. It's been a long haul, and you all know what we went through about 2 years ago. So it speaks volumes about the work of the staff. So thank you very much, and thank you for the update. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I actually have a few things for my report I'd like to get into. So as we sort of mentioned already, boy, we had an awesome privilege this morning to go to my alma mater, Wingfield High School in South Jackson. We had a great reception from about 20 of their student leaders. Had a pretty frank and open conversation about what it's like to be a student there. And there's a lot of takeaways, and I'm still processing, to be honest. But what they wanted to tell us is, there's some really amazing things happening at Wingfield High School. And yes, it's not all, rainbows and unicorns and sunshine. There are challenges, but on the flip side, we talked to some students who were super motivated, super dedicated. We made a pledge to them that this isn't a one and done conversation, that we want to develop this, as we move along and continue, hearing from them about what some of the challenges they might see, but also when some super awesome things are happening so that we can help, celebrate that as well. We talked about, their chess team, reaching some of the championship level nationally. Just an amazing experience. And as I said, we'll talk about this a little bit more, but our plans are in May to go to Clinton. And we won't do this every month, but as frequently as we can, because, I just felt, it was really important. And what a way to kick off today to spend a little time with those young men and women, and boy, just really energized. And I can't wait to get back out there and speak with other students from other districts. I kind of open it up if there's any other comments. I mean, this was such a, unique and amazing thing for us. Anybody have anything else they want to add? Good? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, last month you and I and I can't remember if you were there or not. Buddy, you were with us last month down at the School of the Blind.
Johnny.
No, it was Johnny. Yeah. We had a great time down there, and I just echo what you're saying about getting out into districts and seeing what folks are doing. And I think they appreciate us being there as well.
Okay. We're going to come back to Spotlight in just a minute. We ran over that part. Yeah, the Mississippi School for Blind and Deaf was an amazing experience, and again, look forward to more of that. I was invited by Colonel Willis, who's the Jackson Public School leader for the JROTC program, on March 28th to come out for their cadet review ceremony at Hughes Field. It was amazing to see hundreds of students that were, just so disciplined, and, were just an amazing experience. We had a great speaker, a Brigadier General female, the first female African-American female graduate from West Point joined. Just, and again, hundreds of parents in the stands, just an amazing experience. So, again, spending more time with students and understanding their life experiences are certainly enriching for me, and I know for the rest of the board. Dr. Kelly and I had the opportunity this past week to spend time at NASB. He's a past president of the National Association of State Boards of Education. I'm the new member board of directors representative. Both of us were honored to be asked to present. Dr. Kelly talked about our efforts to add a new student member to the board, and so we were able to, talk about some of the ways that we're leading on that, and there were lots of conversation. I presented on rural equity, an issue I really hadn't thought very much about, but, it's like teaching. You really got to learn it 2 or 3 times if you're going to get up and present. And one of the things I recognize through that is we have 93% of our school districts in the state of Mississippi that are considered rural, which is really amazing by any definition, by the state or federal definition. We also did visits on Capitol Hill and met with Senator Wicker and Senator Hyde-Smith's representatives, and had some really great conversation and ways that we as a board volunteered, all of us, to be sounding boards for their staff as they move through not only the reauthorization of the Higher Education Act, but the implementation of ESSA and the Perkins. So a lot of good policy. The last thing I have on my list is just maybe a due out from staff, if I may. One of the issues that I see frequently, and I guess it's more profound now since we just met 2 weeks ago, is the amount of paper that we have, and that you guys have to organize and prepare for us. And I can only imagine not only the money it costs to the for the production of the paper, but the time that's taken away from other tasks that are more meaningful towards student achievement. And in talking with some of my colleagues at NASB, they said they don't do this. They have an iPad, everything's there, and you just scroll up and down. And I would ask by next meeting if we can get a path forward and a way to do that, keeping in mind everyone's individual needs to prepare, which is different than coming to the board and having all this. If there's a way we can do it, certainly there's a way that we can do that. So if y'all can look into that at our next board meeting, let's get a report on that. And with our apologies, we did skip over Spotlight.
That's my fault. That's my fault.
So I will turn it back over to Dr. Wright, and we'll tee that up.
All right, thank you. So this month's Spotlight features Tylertown Primary School in Walthall County School District, and the school's participation in what we call at the state level the State Systemic Improvement Plan. So since that's a mouthful, you'll hear them refer to it as SSIP. And that is a comprehensive multi-year plan to improve educational and functional outcomes for students with disabilities. It focuses on building the capacity of districts to implement evidence-based practices in reading, and it also focuses on improving, obviously, third grade reading proficiency. The SSIP increases expectations for students with disabilities, provides professional development and coaching to both special ed and general ed teachers, and in our targeted districts. SSIP districts have raised their third grade ELA proficiency rate among students with disabilities to 29.2%, which is closing the gap, which we're happy to see, with the overall statewide proficiency rate of 44.7. And this is going to show you how SSIP works at a school and the impact that it's had on its students and teachers. But I want to acknowledge we've got some folks from Walthall County and MDE Office Special Ed staff. So Andy Brock, if you would stand, thank you. Andy is the Assistant Superintendent and Federal Programs Director. Julie Etheridge is the Director of Student Special Services. Robin Duncan is Tylertown Primary School Principal. Angela Moore is their SSIP literacy coach. Edris Thompson is MDE's SSIP support specialist. Gidget Mansell is MDE's SSIP literacy coach supervisor. And Teresa Laney is MDE's statewide coordinator of Phonics First. So thank you all for being here. And now we are going to show you your work. Thank you.
The State Systemic Improvement Plan, which we call the SSIP, is a requirement of all states to receive federal funds. This is a multi-year plan which is targeted towards improving the outcomes of students with disabilities and their families. The SSIP is completed in 3 phases. We have a phase for analysis of data, a phase for infrastructure development, implementation, and evaluation, and phase 3 is ongoing evaluation.
We've been given tremendous support through the SSIP program, but probably most important to me as special ed director is getting the support with technical assistance. Anytime we have any issues, we have questions, we still get the preferential PD if that's something that we need. And we've had inclusion training to help build our capacity in those areas to where our teachers can be more equals in the classroom. They were able to go to all of the Phonics First trainings with the general ed teachers so they can teach at the same capacity as those teachers.
Our school benefits so much from our ESSEP literacy coach, Miss Angela Moore. She is always available to help wherever she's needed. If it's going through our data to figure out, how to strengthen kids' weaknesses or challenge those who need a little extra push, she's always there. If she doesn't know, she finds out. She will model for us. She will co-teach with us. She's so wonderful in our professional learning communities as well, just keeping us really focused on what we need to be focused on. She's just always there to help and answer whatever questions we may have. She's wonderful.
As literacy coach, I provide non-evaluative classroom observations with teachers. I'm another set of eyes for them to help them self-reflect on how they are teaching and how they're implementing district initiatives. I help them with classroom management, time management, student engagement, how well the kids are responding. A lot of times when you're teaching, your mind is not totally on how the kids are reacting to instruction. So that's one of the benefits of the in-class observation. Our emphasis here at Tylertown Primary has been to develop our teachers' ability to teach reading. Not so much how to teach a reading program. We don't let any one program guide what we do here. We use sound instructional techniques and research-based and evidence-based strategies that sincerely make a difference with our kids.
Some of the successes that we're seeing at our school are we're seeing stronger evidence of the teachers teaching the 5 components of reading. Our professional learning communities are targeted to meet the needs of not only our students but our staff as well. Last year on our readiness pre-test, our students performed about 60 points below state average. At the post-test, we were only 12 points below state average, so we were bridging that gap, and we feel that we are doing a better job.
Since we began implementing resources and skills that has been provided to us from our district literacy coach, I have seen major changes in the way that our kids actually are engaged more because of the rigor of the resources and curriculum that we have been implementing in the past. From now, there's a big change in how much they are really, really interested and engaged, and they are really, really learning all the skills that we are presenting to them.
ESSEP districts who employed literacy coaches during last year showed an elevated increase in their data. 29.2% of their students with speech and language disabilities or specific learning disabilities were now proficient in 3rd grade math ELA. I look for the data this year to continue to increase. We have some hardworking coaches, teachers, and the students. It's just having a great impact. It's been very beneficial, and I am so very thrilled to just be a part of this process.
I just want to say thank you to the district for really embracing this process. And the beauty of it is you can see the progress that your children are making, and that's what it's all about. So thank you to everybody that's involved, and thank you for being here today. We really appreciate what you do each and every day for our children. So thank you.
Great. Okay. We did not have any subcommittees that met this month, but Dr. Evil?
Yes. I want to take this opportunity. Dr. Wright mentioned it, but I think that I would like to highlight everybody that you please look at this report from the Grow Your Own Task Force. A lot of time is spent by that task force looking at how we can address teacher shortage. And I want to call your attention particularly to pages 18, 19, and 20, which don't want to read the whole report, you can turn to those pages and the summary of the recommendations by for addressing teacher academies, the paraprofessional classified staff, community colleges, and post-secondary partnerships. You really need to look at those because this really provides one of the paths forwards that we're going to follow. The Office of Teaching and Learning will be following to address the teacher shortage. So I wanted to be sure to point that out to you. But also, if you're not prone to wanting to read it, you'd rather be what I call spoon-fed. They're going to, task force leadership is going to provide a webinar that you can register for and tune into on Wednesday the 17th. And I'm sure the staff will be more than happy to have you listening in as well. Currently, they have 92 people registered for that webinar, which is great that there's that much interest. So, in closing, I would like to say I'd like to thank Mr. Moss, and he's here. Dr. Murphy's not, but he too, Dr. Murphy and Mr. Moss led that effort, and they've been recently highly supported by Ms. Cormack, who is actually on the task force and now is part of the staff. So I'd like to give them a shout out for all this hard work, and I think you've really got something here that's going to really give us good results addressing the shortage.
Thank you for that, Dr. Elam. I've been advised as the board members speak, if you could speak more into the microphone. Thank you. And I'll just echo Cortez's leadership on this issue. He'll tell you I've been pinging him left and right on data points, and he's been quick to respond. So thank you, Mr. Moss, for your efforts around this important issue. Okay. Mr. Chairman. Lellen.
I have often been accused of not being on the same page with the board, and I've always disagreed with that. For those of you that don't believe that, look on page 13.
I guess his picture's not on there.
His picture's not on there? Oh, my Lord. Yeah, there you are, yeah.
Maybe this is a good time to remind everybody, Mr. McClellan's long tenure on the school board is coming to an end here quite soon, and maybe that's a harbinger of things to come. Mr. Franklin.
Just a comment, please, sir. In two directions. One, I want to thank you. Dr. Kelly mentioned our trip to the last month to the School for the Deaf and Blind, and then this month going out to Wingfield. That's just heartwarming, and it gives you a glimpse into what wonderful professional folks are doing on behalf of children in the state. It kind of makes sense out of all this paper we shuffle. And the second thing I want to mention is, Dr. Wright, thank you for the spotlight every month, because that does the same thing. It highlights what people are doing out there. That adds to the success story that we try to tell. So thank you for the spotlight. Thanks for the visits. And I want to apologize to Ms. Altman putting her on the spot about Clinton.
Oh, it's coming.
She tried to talk to me before the meeting about my behavior. She slapped me back into submission when she gets ready. But I do thank y'all for your efforts in that type of direction, is seeing what's going on, that type of thing. So thank y'all.
Thank you for saying that. It was truly awesome and inspiring. Okay, we'll move on to number 9, discussion and approval of board items. The first one, Dr. Vanderford, I'd ask you to come forward. Selection of the districts that will comprise the Mississippi Achievement School District.
Make sure you lean into. Is that mic on? Okay.
As Dr. Dean stated, item 1 is related to the consideration and approval of the district or districts that would comprise the Achievement School District. In accordance with Mississippi law, there was created an Achievement School District that was charged with the purpose of transforming persistently low performing or low persistently failing school districts. So just to remind you, there was a task force that worked for nearly a year to develop the criteria for eligibility in the Achievement School District, and that criteria was later approved by the state board on October the 19th of 2017. So in your board item, beginning on page 2, you'll have the statute that created the Mississippi Achievement School District, and then you have some pages that we will reference shortly related to the various options. So keeping in mind on page 1 of the board item, the criteria that is state board approved is that districts must have been identified as an F for 2 consecutive school years or for 2 out of 3 school years. The districts must have more than 50% of the schools within the district failing, or more than 50% of their students enrolled in the school district, in schools that are rated an F within the school district. So based on this criteria, what you have before you are 5 districts that meet the criteria. So the 5 districts that you have listed as options are provided, and they have met all 3 options. They have been an F for 2 consecutive years or failing for 2 out of the 3 last accountability with 2016, 2017, and 2018. They also have 50% or more of the schools within their district rated an F, and they also have 50% or more of their students enrolled in a school that's rated an F. So you notice on those last bullets it's an and or, but the 5 districts that are before you today have met all of their criteria. So keeping in mind that the law as well as the criteria states that the school district shall only take over the number of districts for which it has the capacity to serve, before you have 3 options for your consideration. Option A, the Humphreys County School District and the Yazoo City Municipal School District. Option B, the Mid-County School District, Jefferson County School District, and option C, the Clarksdale Municipal School District. So these options are based on demographic location. So beginning on page 8, I think, of your backup material, you'll see the data, and it's broken down by page, and this was in your mail out, that has option A, the districts, and you'll see the grade for 3 years of accountability ratings. You will also see for each district the numerical the number of points that they had out of 1,000 points in the accountability system, and there's a note on each page to indicate that you must have more than 489 points to be rated a D. And you also have the current enrollment for each of the districts and schools, and then for 16, 17, and 18, you have for you the percent of schools that percent of students that are in F-rated schools, and then for 2018, you have the count of F schools. So when developing the criteria, the 50% or more of the students in an F school or the 50% or more of the schools rated an F is based on the most current accountability data, which is 2018, and then the 2 consecutive years, or 2 of 3, is from school years 2015-16 to current. And then the last pages of your data is a separate page for each of the districts that breaks down the components of the Mississippi statewide accountability system so that you can see the number of points that were earned in each of those categories.
Okay?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
What is the difference in this district than what we're already doing with our old conservative district? What would be the difference?
Well, there's 2 separate statutes that govern the District of Transformation and the Achievement School District. So when you look at the districts that are in transformation, there's a statute that covers the state of an emergency, which you have many options that would lead to that, and a different set of criteria. So the criteria for the Achievement School District is different than the criteria for transformation, but the outcome of both is certainly the same.
I guess that's what I'm getting to. I understand the different statutes, but I think all of the board members know that I have never been a opponent of the district, which, you know, we want what's best for the student. But I have not found any state yet that have been real successful with this. Michigan have not. They did away with it. Tennessee have not. They did away with it. Louisiana is struggling. And I have always said that we have enough on our books if we would just step up to the plate to make sure that we accomplish what is out there for us to accomplish. I can't see where this is going to be any different than what we could do already. In a discussion, or am I the only one to feel that way?
I'm not a supporter of the Achievement School District for the reasons you say. If you look at the research and the pros and cons, and folks who've tried it, so just it's not deep research. All you got to do is Google. I'm real disparate in my technological skill, but I do know how to Google.
Other comments?
Another thing that it does too is if you look and talk to people who've worked in that arena and trying to turn around, one of the biggest things is you can go in with good leadership. And y'all, we've seen examples of that with Matt Curley and Ms. Pulley. Those folks have gone in and turned folks. But the thing is, long term, if you don't change the culture in the community, when you leave, when the department pulls out or pulls a conservative, in some cases, and I just struggle with it because one of the first things here again, the community's kind of left out of this process, in my opinion.
Well, I think one of the issues is that, you don't fix it in a year or 2 years. This is 20-year fixes. And sometimes we pull out too quickly, maybe that's been the case. But you don't change the culture of a community in a year or 2 years. It takes a long time to get people on board and make it work. But, I guess my question would be with this statute, that if we don't do it, what is the issue? Or we have a history with at least 2 of these recommendations. I'll just put it out there. Yazoo City came in 2 or 3 years ago and gave us a plan and all this stuff, but they haven't improved. They have Yazoo City and Humphreys. Their percentages are the worst. Their grades are the worst. They've got more schools failing. So, I guess, again, my question is, if you don't do it, what are we going to do with it? You're doing what the board asked you to do, which was bring back recommendations and show us which schools need the most help. And I would say, because of the history, in my opinion, Yazoo City's at the top of the list in Humphreys County, those 2 together. So I don't know what the rest of the board thinks, but
Dr. Elam?
Well, I would say I would support what you just said, Ms. Altman. And I don't think that I think we're beyond deciding whether we're going to have an achievement school district. We voted. We're done with that. Own it or not, it's been settled. We took a vote.
Mr. Chairman,
so we're moving to the point of which schools will be the ones to be included in the first achievement school district.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. McClellan.
I was making that as an illustration. I've been on this board long enough to know that we've had all kind of programs on the table. But for some reason, we still fail to produce what we're trying to produce. And that is to make sure that we have a good teacher in every classroom, a good leader in every building. And this particular statute is going to separate. You're going to have Achievement School District over here with another board. I don't think that is right, to be honest with you. I don't think it's right to put the have-nots by themselves and with the haves being able to function in a different setting. I think we need to look at what we can do to make sure that we are supporting the have-nots that don't have it to accomplish what they need to accomplish. That's just my opinion. And I think you all have heard me talk about the Achievement School District ever since it started 5 years ago, and I will not vote for it.
Dr. Kelly?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Mr. McClellan said something at the outset of his remarks, and that was that all of us want what is best for students. I could not agree more with that. Mr. McClellan said something at the outset of his comments that all of us want what's best for students, and I could not agree more with that. He talked a little bit about districts, several of them that have failed across the country, but there are others that have been very successful at this. I'd point to Georgia. I'd point to Colorado. Had a lot of success with this, and there are others. Most of us around this table are native Mississippians. I'm one of them. I've been here my entire life, and I think most of us have. We care deeply about this state. We care about every student of the state. And for most of my life, we have been dead last in education or second to last. That does not feel good. For the last 3 or 4 years, this state has made remarkable progress. But what I see happening is that when you get this repeated history of doing the same thing and getting the same results, you have to think about trying something different. We have not had any real opportunity to experience whether or not this will work for us or not. I'm referring to the Achievement School District. We can't sit here and predict whether it's going to be successful or not. But I just believe that we have to try something different to give these young people a chance. And I believe that. I had the opportunity to sit on a selection committee, and I hope I'm not getting ahead on the agenda. But I sat on a selection committee for someone who is poised to take over this district if we have the courage around the table today to put some of these school districts in this plan. What a remarkable young man. Has worked in some of the worst school districts in the country and has a history of turning them around. Young guy, energetic, knows systems. He knows education systems. He knows what it takes. And I just believe that we need to give that young man a chance to see if he can make a difference here. And we can't do that unless we move forward with this. And I'll just open my hands and be very transparent. I would not like to see us put every school district on this list in the Achievement School District to start. I think all of them meet the criteria, but I'd like to put the toes in the water, so to speak. Just test this thing, see if it works. If we see the progress that I think we're going to see, then we can look at gradually moving others into it. But I think we have to do something. We cannot come here year after year with some of the school districts that are identified here and hear promises, and I think they mean well. But 2 years later, they come back and we get the same results. The other difference, though, is that when we put conservatives in school district, For the most part, they're there for a limited period of time. We pull them out, and the same people are in charge again. And the good work that has been done in 1 or 2 years, it collapsed. I don't know the reason for that. But hopefully, having some degree of permanency with a superintendent in place, having a stable faculty and staff, we need that in every school district. I'm just hoping we'll see some change. All of us have waited too long. We've waited too long. And I don't think this is a slap in the face of any educators that have tried to get the job done. I'm not here to indict anybody. I really am not. But I go back to what Mr. McClellan said. We have to look at what's in the best interest of children. And absent having seen this, I'm just willing to give this a chance and see if it works. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair, I promise this is my last go around on this. And I listened to Dr. Kelly real close, and I agree with some of his points. But we have to take some of the responsibility, Dr. Kelly, for who we've been putting into these conservative districts. We have to take some responsibility of whether or not we're taking them out too soon. I think that Mr. Franklin had a very, very good point. We had 3 conservatives that really knocked the roof off of the building. It's our responsibility to put those people in place for those children to have a chance. It'll be the same thing with this conservative district if the right people don't get in there. I hear what you say about the superintendent, but it goes beyond that. But I think that is the first start with the league. So I promise you I'm not going to say anything else, Mr. Chairman, but vote.
Your other comments? Okay, so was there other comments? I'm sorry.
Oh,
okay.
Go ahead.
So yeah, I'm just going to bring us back, and certainly still open for discussion as we move forward. But again, as what Dr. Elam acknowledged earlier, this was voted on in the past to move forward, and what the staff has done is bring us 3 options. What I heard in the comments from Dr. Kelly is maybe it's not any of these 3 in this particular order. Maybe we do one. Don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but maybe it's a walk, a crawl, walk, run, as opposed to too much too soon. So I want to bring us back and try and have a discussion specific to these options, and keeping in mind that one option might just be to do one based on Dr. Kelly's comments. So can we have discussion on that?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'll open that up. If you look at your data that we've been supplied, Humphreys and Yazoo are one group. If you look at that, they have the largest percentage of students in F schools. They have the largest number of schools that are failing schools. Look across the way and you see the trend. And I agree. I mean, I think we need to take one of these options and place this gentleman in it that Dr. Kelly was talking about. Because if you look at the others, it doesn't make sense. And it never was in my mind to think we'd use all 3, that we would do either Humphreys and Yazoo or Amite Jefferson or Clarksdale could stand alone. I mean, they're big enough to could stand alone. That's my opinion. If you, and I'll be glad to make a motion if you want me to do that, or if there's other discussion.
I will put that on hold. Other discussion on what Ms. Altman was describing. Any other discussion about essentially it's how this would look. And we've got the 3 options, but there might be a 4th.
I'll just state that you'll recall the last time we went through this forming an achievement school district, Humphreys was one of the schools that was going to be moved forward at them, and not Sabine, because we looked at it that way. And I recall having some letters from parents in Humphreys. I mean, I as a board, so you all had them. I'm just refreshing your memory, saying they really wanted to see that happen. And so I would say to that, we once told them that we were going to include the Humphreys in this achievement school district. And it seems to me if we were to select a different option, that we're really kind of going back on our word, that we would move forward with doing something for Humphreys.
Other comments?
I'll let Rosemary make it.
Okay. Not hearing any other comments. Mrs. Altman, you want to make a motion?
Yes, I do. I move that the board, form the Achievement School District based on Humphreys County School District and Yazoo City Municipal School District.
I second the motion.
Okay, there's a motion and a second, and that would be option A, form the ASD using Humphreys County School District and Yazoo City Municipal School District as our initial ASD schools in the model. So that's the motion and the second. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. No. I think the ayes have it. Okay.
I had to stomp on his toe to get him to vote.
Yeah.
I want you to know that.
Sounded like it.
Believe that, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll move on to action item 2, approval of a temporary rule to begin the Administrative Procedures Act. Dr. Vanderford.
Thank you. Item 2 is requesting action to establish State Board Policy Part 3, Chapter 36, Rule 36.6, which would be optional graduation requirements for students displaced by a federally or nationally declared natural disaster. So the temporary rule, if approved, would make this policy become effective immediately and would apply to seniors that would graduate in May of 2019. We would move forward with the APA process as we would with the establishment of any state board policy, and of course bring that back to the board for any amendments or for recommendation for final approval. This policy is required by federal guidance as part of our ESSA plan. So at this time, Mississippi does not have a policy that allows a student that has been displaced through any type of national disaster to be eligible to receive a Mississippi diploma based on the requirements that they've met in their home state or country. So this policy would allow local districts to have in place a policy where they would work with other states or countries for students that come in to Mississippi as a junior or senior. So it would limit the requirements to the time in which the student enters. And so the reason that we need this policy at the state level is so that we do not have any graduation requirement that prohibits the student. So we have to remove any barriers. And so this was brought to our attention that we did not have this policy. And so we worked very diligently to follow the federal guidance and to look at some of the policies of other states and what they do. Fortunately, I think most students that come in, our districts work very diligently to assist those students in earning a Mississippi diploma by meeting the requirements that we have in place. But there is some cases, of course, in which we do have a barrier, and that does not comply with our federal guidance.
Okay, thank you. Pretty straightforward. Any thoughts, questions, discussions? Okay, seeing none, we need a motion for the approval of a temporary rule to begin the APA Act process as described. Approve.
Second.
We get a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, Dr. Gavin, if you'll come on up, we'll now move into the approval of MDE contracts. There's several, A through I on your agenda. I won't mention each of them, but turn it over to you, Dr. Gavin, to go walk us through it.
Okay. Item A is our monthly contracts. We have 2 employees there, retirees. Item 3B, and the rest of these items are all renewal of contracts. There are no new contracts. These are all renewals, and the effect of the cost, we're actually in total saving about $200,000 in total on all of these various contracts. Item 3B is to renew the contract with Voyager Learning. Item 3C is to renew our contract with our Research and Curriculum Unit at Mississippi State University. Item 3D is data recognition. That's for the Lost Links contract. Item 3E is DRC as well for 5th and 8th grade science assessment. Item 3F is to renew our contract with Renaissance Learning. Item 3G is our assessment contract with Questar. And item 3H is the second Questar contract. Item 3I is the ACT contract.
What was the total contract for Questar for the 10-year period?
It is $11 million so far. That's how much we spent over the 5 years. I can't remember the exact total for the 10 years, but $11 million so far.
Didn't we get that for 10 years when we?
Which Questar?
Some of you all should have been on the board on it.
Yeah, it was for 10 years. Yeah.
That's my question. What was the figure for 10 years?
For 10 years, I don't have that information here, but
$134 million
for 10 years.
For 10 years, and we're $52 million in with year 5.
And it's renewed every year.
That is correct.
And I'm assuming that it's calculated the amount based on that 100 and whatever million you said. So each year is calculated.
Yeah, it is calculated every year. We may make minor changes to the scope of work. Like this particular year, it's about $158,000 more than last year. So we make minor tweaks to it each year.
That's what I'm getting at. Why is that?
Speaking to
well, it's based on the state's need. I just would like to remind you that last year, the contract was reduced by approximately $3.5 million in year 4. So we had a huge claim last year. So each year annually with all of our contracts based on needs, whether it's the needs, of new items or, whatever our need is, we negotiate that scope of work. And then either, in some cases we have, a contract for today, DRC, that's, I think it's down for $400,000 a year. You'll see that NOTA ACT increased by $72,000, but that's because their charge for administrative tests per pupil went up by $2. So some of the increases are beyond our control, but we do have the ability to negotiate with each of our vendors.
Okay, other comments on any of the other contracts? Okay, do I have a motion? Let me just state it. A motion to approve items 3A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and I.
So moved.
Second.
Motion with a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I vote no on G and H.
Just state it individually. You got it. Okay. G and H recorded as Ms. McClellan votes no. Alrighty. Now we added a fourth agenda item, discussion on accountability ratings for the Mississippi School for Blind and Deaf.
Thank you very much for letting me bring this forward. Of course, the visit to the school last month was really a tremendous visit. Everything that I saw that day was very impressive. The commitment that every teacher we bumped into, every kid we bumped into, it was a great visit. And we've been talking about this a little bit off and on since last fall. And last fall when we looked at the ratings and all, there was two little schools down the coast that we were all concerned about. That not to say schools, two programs. And we over time and we looked at possibly changing their positions through legislation. And then we were able to do that through the Accountability Task Force. So the two little programs down on the coast, we made a correction in theirs. This is the first year that, like, those two little programs, MSD, MSB, have been given accountability rating. And when I visited that campus, and you know, we had the championship football kids come in, and we saw those kids and what they were able to do. And when I was out there that day, you know, then I just cannot, in good conscience, not try to do something. I just don't think what those people are doing, the commitment that I saw, that there should be a failing rating hanging over those people out there who are working, those children in that community of parents and that they're serving. And I know we've talked about what's legally that we have to do in this type of thing, but I think, and I'm asking this, but I think that there's a precedent for this type asking, and we do not. These are our schools. These two are ours, and those folks operate without any ability to make tax assessments or anything else to improve their plight. They get an appropriation through the legislature to work on, and they struggle with trying to get teachers and keep them. They don't pay their teachers one nickel above the state average. And every teacher that I saw and met, they had a smile on their face. They seemed to be committed. They seemed to be enthusiastic about what they're doing. That's staff, the whole shoot. So I'm asking that we withdraw that failing accountability grade for the Mississippi School for Deaf and Blind. And when I said the precedent, I think we already have a situation where with the School for the Arts and the School for Mathematics and Science, where we do that. We don't give a grade to the accountability rating to those folks. So I'd like to ask you to consider that. I think everybody here did what their hearts led them to do for those children down on the coast, and we were able to do that very simply, but we did that. We stepped up and really went to bat for those programs down there and the children and the parents that they serve and the people who are serving those. And I'm asking for that today.
Okay, that's what we'll make that in the form of a motion in a second, but let's open it up for discussion. Any thoughts, questions, or further input? Or before I ask for the motion, I just want to open it up for discussion.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying not to jump ahead, Dr. Kelly.
That's fine.
I saw what Mr. Franklin saw, and I too agree that something perhaps need to be done. I'm wondering, though, I would like to know more about it and the impact, Mr. Franklin, before we do it. Is it any way we can get staff or somebody to look at it and come back to us and give us a report on perhaps a mechanism for moving forward, as opposed to just making a decision today without having all of the data in front of us?
Yeah, I made two comments to that, yes, sir. And one is every child there has an IEP. I just want to make that as a statement. Every child there has that. And the working under the umbrella of that being a failing community out there, I just didn't see that as a failing community. And if we're willing to make accommodations for programs like the one on the coast and math and science, and I'm not trying to get us to change what we do with math and science nor the art school, you know. I'm just saying that there's precedent, so we're not violating law and that type of thing, you know. And this is the first time those schools have had a rating, and I'd just like some consideration for that.
Let me just try to get some clarity here for staff, and maybe this is a May or June report out, so not, you know, immediate, but a couple of things. I think there are certainly other models across the United States for schools for specifically for blind and deaf students. Maybe we can, you know, do a what do other states do? I think that's probably worth investigating for comparison. Number two is it possible to do what we did for the schools on the coast, in that the grades go back to the home districts?
That was my other. I'm sorry.
My question about that is, you know, again, we're not going to relitigate this whole are you a school or are you not school. It is a school based in the Mississippi Code, period. So it's not that we can remove that. It's considered so would we request legislative changes to say, in order to meet, the federal requirements of ESSA for every student being tested in MAP A or MAP, we have to categorize the school differently. That's the code legal question to be asked. And the third and final point I'll make, I hear you. I walked through that school, and again, just so many emotions, and I felt really high and really low during that whole time. I saw children who clearly were on the autism spectrum who were getting incredible one-on-one help, which was awesome. Then I saw, a child, Dr. Kelly, you mentioned this in NASB, of, who when we asked them what they wanted, they said they wanted more rigor in the curriculum. They wanted to be challenged, and it really, I don't want to, approach leadership at the School for Blind and Deaf and say, well, where's the disconnect? Because I don't even begin to comprehend their challenge. But I would say, let's look at those two particular policy issues. And, next month, if it's easy, 2 months is fine. But if we need to do a legislative fix, if that's something that other states are doing and that's the will of the board, then just bring it to us for information and let us consider that. And I'll entertain any other discussions on the due out from staff.
Well, the point you made, you reminded me. I'm trying to do that to Dr. Kelly and making the first statement I forgot to say. That's what we do with the math and science, school and the arts. We test those kids just like we did the little schools on the coast, and we send the scores back to their schools of origin, and that's what my motion would be, that we do it from that standpoint.
And I'll restate the motion in a second, but don't let anybody in this room or watching or staff or anybody take this as anybody getting let off the hook on oversight. And if anything else, my trip there for the rest of the time that I'm on the board, I will take a much more critical eye to what student achievement looks like for that school, because it shouldn't be where it is. Do they need resources? Do they need more teachers? Let's get after it. That's, like you said, that's our school. So let's not think that this is, let's just devolve this down back to the local schools. That's not the issue here. But I'm sympathetic to what you're saying. I mean, to rate a school F with the significant, profound challenges that they're facing, it's worth taking a look at. So the motion is, please, staff, if you could, in a timely way, we won't put a due date, but no later than June, let's say, come to us specifically looking at what other models are for other schools for blind and deaf and how they're responding to the ESSA accountability requirements of the law and getting tested, and and if there's a code requirement to fix the fact that it is in fact a school in law, unlike the other schools which are designated a school by the MDE, and show us a path forward and give us some options just like you laid out in action item 1, to consider. Is that good? That's the motion, and there needs to be a second.
Okay.
Okay, that's Johnny's motion, by the way, with the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Mr. Franklin. Okay, now we are into the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve items B, C, D, E, and F?
So moved.
There's a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Alrighty. So let me just. So, recess for 20 minutes until. Okay. So we have a scheduling issues. We're 20 minutes ahead of our schedule for our executive session timed item, but I'm told that we have several other items within the executive session that will take at least 20 minutes. So instead of going on recess for 20 minutes, I think we will entertain a motion to go into executive session now.
Mr. Chair, move forward and consider making a close determination of the need to go to executive session.
They have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Please clear the room. similar, exact same items. We also approved the appointment of superintendent for the Achievement School District. Let me announce his name. Okay, Jamal Wright, Dr. Jamal Wright has been approved as superintendent of the ASD. We also received feedback from the state superintendent on the state board's annual evaluation. And then finally, in the appeal of Randy Stokes, Mississippi Educational Licensure 182024, we affirm the appellate's decision to withdraw his appeal of the commission for hearing. So we didn't go through that. He withdrew his appeal, to be specific. Okay. All right. So next then, we'll move on to report on meetings attended. Ms. Wright?
Yes, I attended the Early Childhood Networking meeting with NASB on Tuesday, and it was very informative. There was 4 or 5 different states that were there. Dr. Oakley was there, Dr. Vanderpool was there, and I would say that it was very powerful that we were a state that was being recognized for doing it right and for modeling what to do to get the early childhood quality education on a roll and how to do it correctly, and lots of topics that included looking at Mississippi and look at what they have set out to do and what they have done and the ways that we are doing it correctly. So it was a good meeting, and it was good to be on the side that was being promoted for doing it right. It was us and 3 other states that they really used to show the map that had been laid out and how we were doing things. So it was a privilege.
Thank you for taking personal time to go. I know it's always a challenge to be away from family and work, so thank you for taking the extra step to be a leader and attend the meeting. Were there other reports on other meetings attended? I think we kind of covered NASB and CCSSO. All right, do we need approval for attendance at any upcoming meetings that I'm not aware of? Not seeing any. Other business, here's an action item. We need approval of a work session of the State Board of Education on Wednesday, June 12, 2019 at 8:30 a.m. for the purposes of interviewing the student representative finalists. A motion for that. Got to get a motion. Got a motion, they got a second?
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second for the June 12th.
We need to read something.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Second item on
On the motion that's about to come.
That's right.
The second action required is approval of the State Board of Education to tour the Clinton High School located at 401 Arrow Drive, Clinton, Mississippi as a public body on May 9th, 2019 at 9 a.m. prior to the May 9th board meeting. So what we did with Wingfield, we intend to do at Clinton. There's a motion and there's a second. There's a motion with a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Third is approval to move the May 9th, 2019 board meeting offsite to Clinton School District Central Office located at 201 East Haven Drive, Clinton, Mississippi, with a start time of 10:45 a.m. Motion. Second. With the second, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Any additional business for the good of the order? Hearing none. Motion for adjournment. And a second.
That's what
I got a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All right, we are adjourned.
Distinguished gentlemen.
This.
That's right. I knew that motion.